So, chapter 9, verse 8, we're up to the fifth aliyah, continuing along with the Chumash and Rashi. Vayomer Elokim el Noach el banav v'tolei more. God says to Noah and to his children that were with him, saying, V'ani hineni mekimes brisi itchem. I will uphold my covenant with you, v'etzaraychem achreichem, and your seed after you. V'etkol nefesh hachaya asher itchem. I'll uphold my covenant with you and your seed that is after you. Well, we weren't expecting you. Hello.
I told you I was going to the class.
Oh, okay.
And then the student also has the soccer game.
But I also want to let you know that when they interview me on the TV today, I don't know if they're going to put it on. You'll see it's at 6. I showed them all the notes that all students wrote, and she seemed very interested. We'll see if she decides to think that was newsworthy. But
I brought you food for the plane.
oh, thank you. I can't get this through security.
You'll check it before. And the trick is to keep the empty bottle and then fill it up on the plane. Just dump it out. Keep the plastic bottle because they only give you a cup.
Or yeah, you can on the other side of there's usually water.
And also when you're going on the flight, you just fill it up and tell me enough water.
He's playing chess. Everybody else is playing checkers. So the verse says, Va'ani hineni mekim es brisi itchem. I will uphold my covenant with you and your seed after you. Rashi says, Va'ani hineni, behold I. This is a very strange language. The word language, behold I. It's unusual. And behold I. Rashi says it means maskim ani imach. I agree with you. What does that mean? Shaya Noach doeg la'asok b'peri v'rivya. Noah was afraid to engage in reproducing in this world. He said, how can I bring a child into this world, which is such a dark world? He just witnessed the Holocaust, witnessed the destruction of the world. Why would he think that he should? What?
Good point.
Until God promised him, I'm not going to destroy the world again. So too he did in the end. Meaning to say, so Vani Hineni means, and I also understand your concern. And because I understand your hesitation about reproducing, I'll make a covenant with you. So, I'll make a covenant, a sign for my promise. What's the promise that I'm making with you, the covenant with you? And every living creature that's with you, the fowl and the animal, every living creature with you, from everyone that goes out on the ark, all the creatures of the earth. So he's making a covenant, God's making a covenant with the whole world. She says, these are the animals that walk with people. This means like the domesticated animals. And God's making a covenant with the domesticated animals. And then everything that went on the ark. This includes mazikin. This includes those animals which are harmful, which are not included in every living being that is with you. But they're going about is not among the people. Meaning to say, God says, I'm making the covenant with everyone. And also the Chayat Haaretz. What does that mean? Mazikin. This includes those which are harmful. Sheinam Bikal Achaya Asher Itchem. These include those which are harmful and are not even, that's what we just read. Vakimosi, verse 11. Vakimosi is precede. I will uphold my covenant with you. Lo yikares kol basar od mimei mabul. Lo ya'od mabul shachet haaretz. I'll make a covenant with you, and therefore never again shall any flesh be cut off by the waters of the flood, and there will never be a flood to destroy the earth. Rashi says, I'll make a confirmation of my covenant. What's its confirmation? Ota Keshet, the sign of the rainbow. Kemoshe Masayim Volech, as the passage discusses. My mother-in-law asked me a question about this. God says he's not going to destroy the world with a flood. So how come on Yom Kippur, when we talk about the 10 martyrs, God says, and the angels were complaining about what God was doing to the righteous people, God says, quiet, or I'll bring back the world and destroy it with water. So she said to me, why were they worried about that? That was her question. God made a covenant here.
Your answer.
There were a few different answers. The question was better than the answer. That's what it was. It's oftentimes the question is better than the answer.
The angel.
That's in the liturgy for Yom Kippur. In the Musaf of Yom Kippur, the section about the 10 martyrs. As part of the Slichos of Musaf, we say the martyrdom of the 10 martyrs. That's where we tell that story. So, I could show it to you. No, there's one in the bookshelf at the end of the dining room, at the end of the living room. What did he do? Hill's getting.
I
Gotcha.
was waiting for a call from my doctor, and
All right.
called when I was trying.
Go get that call. Go get that call. Okay, so the next verse states, Vayomer Elokim, God says, Zot ot habrit, this is the sign of the covenant. Asher ani noten beini ubenchem ubein kol nefesh chaya asher itchem u'darot olam. This is the sign of the covenant that I will place between me and you, and between every nefesh chaya, every living creature is with you for all generations. All right, okay, show it to you right here. So it says in the Yom Kippur Musaf, it says the following. I'll read it to you. Here's what it states. It says here, the angels above cried out in bitterness when they saw Rabbi Yishmael being flayed alive. They cried out, Zo Torah v'zu schara. Is this the Torah and this is its reward? Otek hasalma ora. O God, who dons his garment like a light. Oyev min ha'et shemcha gadol v'norah. The enemy is cursing your great and mighty name. Mecharef u'megadef ha'divrei Torah. And is casting curses on the words of the Torah. At that moment, Anta bad kol mishamayim, a heavenly voice answered, Imashma kol acher, if I hear another voice, Efochat ha'olam u'mayim, I will cast the whole world, turn the whole world to water. V'tov avo ashita domayim, the emptiness, I will L'tov vavo ashita domayim. To unformed world, I will make God's footstool. Gzeira himel fanai. This is a decree from before me. Kibua misha sheidat domayim. Accepted those who accepted the religion, who delight in the religion. Okay, it's how you translate your mind is strange also. But anyway, the point here is God threatens them, and I'll turn the whole world to water if they keep it up. But what kind of threat is that? When you see from here that God says, I'm never going to destroy the water with a flood.
It's conditional. Don't complain to me if you do.
Yeah, but what kind of threat is that? He just said here, I'm not going to threaten you.
Well, we have to read in a condition.
There's no sort of
Wait, so you're saying read it as long as we behave, I won't destroy the world?
As long as you don't do certain things, mind can complain.
But that's not what God says.
Unconditional, right? I don't see any-
Right, there's no fine print here.
That's it.
So what were you saying? What's your answer, hello?
like conversations in general are different with angels. Like even with the
Yes,
time
sir.
when they're singing, so what's happening up there doesn't necessarily affect what's down here.
That's a good point, but still, God was saying to the angels, I'm going to destroy the world. If you complain, I'll take the whole world with water. So, even though the conversation with the angels, the effect of it was going to be on the earth. So one say that in most read it like this. This is the way we'd have to answer to my mother-in-law. God wasn't saying, I'm going to bring a flood. He's just saying, I'll make the world like it was before it was created. I'll start over. Which, by the way, might not have been a bad idea.
Yeah, I like what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, this world could use a reboot.
A reboot, that's a reboot.
But the other explanation is that God knew he had no response. So he had to shut down the conversation. Because God said, there is no way I could justify this. So the only way I can justify it is by making a threat, which I obviously can't keep.
I don't feel like
An idle threat because maybe he's making a threat knowing he couldn't keep it. Knowing he couldn't keep it.
Maybe a little deceptive, but yeah,
for good reason.
yeah.
We have no answer.
God had no answer. They say, Zu Torah, Zu Schara. And God says, quiet, or I'll turn the world to water. You can't. We wouldn't get away with it. That's my mother-in-law. She's no dummy. My mother-in-law is no dummy. So that's where my wife and children get it from. So then the next verse states, okay, so this is the comment for all generations. Rashi says, why is it written? The Dorot Olam is written without a vav in it. Nichtav chaser, it's written missing the letter vav. Why? Sheyesh Dorot, because there are some generations Sharo Hutzrachu La'ot, which should not require a sign. Fisha Tzadikim Gemurim Hayu. There were some generations that did not require a sign because they're absolutely righteous. These are the generations that never had a rainbow. So everybody gets excited when you see the rainbow. But the truth is, the rainbow is a sign that God would have destroyed the world. So people should be saying, yeah. Everybody gets excited when you see a rainbow, of course. But there is a good reason to get excited, because elsewhere the Gemara says that the rainbow is a reflection of the Kisei HaKavod, of the glorious throne of God. So the closest we can get to seeing the throne of God is by seeing a rainbow. The Techelet is also a reflection. The Techelet is the color of the sky, and the sky is Domel Kisei HaKavod. So there are multiple ways in which we can imagine the Kisei HaKavod. Right, very good.
That's one of my questions.
So then it says in verse 13, "Et kashtina tati be'anan," my bow I placed in the cloud. The rainbow will be my sign of the covenant between me and the earth. Why is God making the rainbow the sign of the covenant? Why is the rainbow the sign?
With water, so the effect of water, sun, breaking.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly what modern science says. But do you think they hopped that back then?
And you can see it wherever you are, no matter where you are, it's just.
Or, right? Or else what would be the explanation for it? One of the
Like if you don't translate as rainbow, if you translate it as like a bow, then it's like a military symbol, like he's on the.
Right, that's what some commentators say, that it's a bow, but the bow is facing upward. Means say God will absorb the arrows, not the people.
Also, like, wasn't this one of the things that was created at dusk?
Bein Hashmashot, the Keshet. Yes, very good.
Colors representing.
Yeah, the Rainbow Coalition, is that still a thing? Is the Rainbow Coalition still around?
Yes.
So maybe that's what God was saying. What? What'd you say, Mordechai?
Jesse Jackson would be pleased to hear that.
Yeah. That was good old days when we only had to worry about Jesse Jackson. Verse 14. Vaya ba'ananei anan al haaretz, and when my cloud will be on the earth, v'nerata hakeshet ba'anan, and you see the bow in the cloud. Rashi says, ba'anani anan, kishetara b'machshavo lefanai, avi choshech va'avadon olam, when I intend to bring darkness to the world. That's what it means. Because otherwise the expression is very hard. Ba'anani anan. And my intent is to bring the cloud in my darkness. Then it says, V'zacharti et briti asher beini u'beinechem. So when my intent is to bring darkness, God says, then I'll remember my covenant between me and you, u'bein kol nefesh chaya, between every living creature. B'chol basar, from flesh. There will never be another flood. She says, "Bein Elokim ubein kol nefesh chaya," means "Bein midat adin shamala ubeinechem," between the attribute of justice of above and you. Shehaya lo lechtov beini ubein kol nefesh chaya. It could have said between me and every living being, but instead it says between God. So what's the message of that? Right? Why it's in the previous verse it says between me and you, and now it says bein Elokim ubein kol nefesh chaya. So Rashi says it doesn't mean God here. What it means here is Elokim can mean the attribute of din, the attribute of justice. So God is making a covenant between the attribute of justice of God and you. Rashi says Zeo Midrasho, but the following is the Midrash. Kishetavo midat hadin ukatrego echem uchayevetchem ani roeh ha'ot v'niskar. When midas hadin comes to destroy you, I will see the sign and remember. Now I think I have another explanation. This is coming to me, and I think this is the pshat. This is the pshat of the question to my mother-in-law. This is what Hashem is saying. Hashem is saying, I'm killing these tzaddikim. You might not like this, but this is what I really think is the pshat. Because if I don't kill these tzaddikim, I'm going to have to destroy the world. This is the only way I can get out of I could justify not destroying the whole world by taking Rabbi Yishmael as a korban. That's what he was saying. That's what he's saying. Meaning to say quiet. He says to the angels, you have to be quiet or I'll turn the world to water. Because if you were to keep arguing, then you'll see that the whole world was worthy of punishment. So I killed these tzaddikim, but otherwise I would have had to destroy the world. That's what I think he's saying. You follow that, Ben?
Yeah. Does that make sense from the standpoint of justice? It seems like the tzaddikim were the people that were.
There is a concept in the Talmud called Misas Tzaddik. Well, it wasn't just the Christians who came up with this. It was in the Talmud, Misas Tzaddikim Mechaper, that the death of a tzaddik serves as an atonement. Excuse me. That the death of a tzaddik serves as an atonement. Thank you. For the world. So that's what we'd have to say. That the tzaddikim, their death was serving as an atonement. Yeah, but it's that's the saying goes. That's why they're at tzaddik. They take the punishment for everyone. So that's what I think it has to be. Okay, now the verse 17 says, "Vayomer Elokim el Noach." God says to Noach, "Zos osadris asher akimosi beini uvein kol basar asher haaretz." God says to Noach, "This is the sign of the covenant which I've established between me and between every flesh that's on the earth." Rashi says, "Hareo keshes." He finally showed him the rainbow. Va'amar lo hareo os shamarti, and then he says, "This is the sign." Because otherwise, why was it just repeating something it said earlier?
Right.
So it has to explain why it's repeating it. Is now God is showing to him. Okay. And the sons of Noach who came out of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Yafet. They were the three sons, Shem, Ham, and Yafet. Ham was the father of Canaan. Ham hu avi Canaan. Okay, this is a very controversial passage as well. So what does it mean? Why does it need to say here? Ham was the father of Canaan. Lafisha parsha asuka uba b'shechut o shel Noach. The passage is leading into the episode of the drunkenness of Noach. Why is Ham being mentioned here? First, meaning to say Shem, Ham, v'Yafet. The Ham is the father of Canaan. Why does it have to tell us that Ham is the father of Canaan? She explains because since we're going to talk about the drunkenness of Noah, Shekil kol ba'Ham, he cursed in which Ham disgraced himself. V'al niskal kal Canaan, and through him, as a result of Ham disgracing himself, the sin that he did on Noah, which is itself not clear what exactly the sin was. As a result of this, Canaan was cursed. V'adayin lo katav toldot Ham, and we have not yet written the lineage of Ham. V'lo yadanu sheKanaan beno. We don't yet know that he's the father of Canaan. And therefore, the verse has to tell us it's a preview, so to speak. So, yeah. So Noach this passage is about the drunkenness of Noach. Here too, we could say, can you imagine the trauma that Noah must have had, the survivor's guilt? I mean, so he drank. Can we fault him for getting drunk after seeing what happened to the world? What?
No. Completely understand.
You understand that, right? It's tricky. I mean, anybody who goes through trauma, you can only imagine what they're going to feel and see and overwhelm. One girl said to me that they're reporting the numbers of the people killed in Israel. They're reporting it all wrong. Because they said every time a child of a parent dies, the parent dies also. So she said the numbers need to be multiplied. unfortunately, the numbers are getting multiplied even without that multiplication, even without that addition. We're getting a lot of death, which was entirely predictable. So, Vayachal Noach ish adama vayita karan. And Noach, the man of the earth, debased himself. Vayita karam, and he planted a vineyard. What does that mean? Rashi says, Asa atzmo chulin. He made himself profane. Shahaya lo la'asok tchila b'netiach haris. So Rashi says he did the wrong thing. The vineyard should not have been what he planted first. He shouldn't have gone into the wine business. Should have maybe planted wheat for matzah. But what's he going into? The wine business. Onkelos understands it means he began. So you could mean it. It could be really an innocuous verse that he's moving on, but he clearly, Rashi's connected it to the fact that the first thing he chooses to plant is a vineyard. And Rashi says he's called the Ish Adamah. Also, it's like the person who only has $10 to his name and uses it on methadone. You know, like, why doesn't Noach plant food? Instead, he's planting wine. Noach is called the Ish Adamah. What does that mean? Adonai Adamah. He's called the master of the earth. Like Ish Na'ami. Vayesh min ha'yayin vayishkar vayitkol b'toch ha'olam. And he drank the wine and he became drunk. And he became naked in his tent. Many read this as an attempt by Noach to return to the Garden of Eden. He goes into his tent and he becomes drunk. He's trying desperately to go back to the Garden of Eden. And aren't we all on some level? All right, we'll have to stop here to daven mincha. We'll stop. And God willing, we'll pick this up next Wednesday night. We should resume our Torah study with Rashi. Yasher koach.